If you are joining us on the stream, hello. As you can see, we're bundled. We're outside for this portion of the pregame show.
I now have a blanket, so I'm
Nate's
good.
got a blanket. That's great.
I'm good now.
That's great. I'm growing my beard out until the Bills get knocked out.
Okay.
It's going like Sabres hockey playoff beard. I already had one, but I just had to keep going until they lose. So if they win the Super Bowl, I don't think that means I'm going to wait until like September.
I think if they win the Super Bowl, you might have to go
all the way.
Yeah,
that sounds crazy. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
I've known you now for 12 years. I've never.
Oh, my kids would not recognize me.
Yeah, no, it would be scarring.
Traumatizing.
Yeah.
Traumatizing.
Yeah.
Taking more of your phone calls. Out of town scores to watch. Things to watch. Houston and Indy today. If the Texans win, they get the 5 seed. Interesting though, they are not playing. Nico Collins,
best player. Yeah.
One other thing to watch from that game, Nate. This is for you, especially for you. So Riley Leonard is going to play for the Colts. No more Phillip Rivers show. Notre Dame quarterbacks have lost Notre Dame quarterbacks have lost 24 straight starts in the NFL. The longest streak by any college in NFL history.
Well, we're tight end you, so that makes sense. We are not quarterback you.
Riley Leonard can end the drought today on the road
and help the Bills.
Yeah, on the road in Houston. That's easy.
So you are rooting for Notre Dame. Is that what I'm getting?
I mean, if you want the Bills to get the 5, which
Let's
I think you should want the Bills to get the 5. If you want to say it's about matchups, that's fine. I think high wild card has value in case you're going to play Houston or the Chargers for that matter. High wild card matters to me. I think high wild card, you got to win your first game, but then, you're basically, if it were real, you'd be the 4.
Yes.
But the format in both conferences is such where a division winner that is not as good as the wild card teams is going to get a home game.
In fact, I think I'd like to implement a rule this year that keeps any of the NFC South teams from playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they're bad. They stink.
The Bills went 3-1 against that NFC South,
did.
which helped.
They did.
Patriots today will play the Dolphins, who are not going to play Jalen Waddle or Devon Achane. So, I think Miami is kind of packing it in as well.
Yeah.
Quinn Ewers will play. Sal Capaccio is making his way over to us. He'll sit down here for a minute. Last game at Highmark Stadium. We're looking back. We're sharing memories. We're taking your phone calls. Sal's going to pop a seat, and we'll talk to him and also get your calls along the way. Oh, applause as Mr. Capaccio makes his appearance. He's got his heated gloves.
He seems warmer than me.
He's ready.
Yeah.
It's not his first rodeo
No,
here at
it's
Highmark
not his
Stadium.
first rodeo.
All right, what number are you on here? We got you?
I think so. You guys got me?
Yeah,
we got you.
We got you.
How are you guys? You good?
Good.
Chilly.
It's a little cold today.
It's a little chilly.
A little chilly.
Yeah.
What perfect weather for the final game here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the way it's supposed
Sure.
to be. When you think about a December or January game at Orchard Park at Highmark Stadium, this is the way it's supposed to feel. This is the way it's supposed to look. It's going to be emotional today. I don't know how I'm going to get through it. I don't know how a lot of people are going to get through it today. I already cried twice.
Yeah?
Once on the way in when the security lady told me this has been her second home for 32 years.
Yeah.
And she's sad, and I'm sad. But you know what? I look across the street, and here's what's cool. This isn't a funeral. This is a celebration of life, and the soul is just moving across the street. This team isn't going anywhere. Josh Allen isn't going anywhere. The Buffalo Bills aren't going anywhere. So we're just going to celebrate this building today, and it's going to be tough and emotional, but fun.
And I'm going to bring up something you and I talked about on WGR during the week, which is the other thing that's not really changing, I don't think, is this experience.
Yes.
You might be in the same lot. The tailgating,
right.
This is kind of like as they are talking about how to build a new stadium and what to do, how important the tailgating atmosphere was, how important everything is. Like, that's all staying. And to me, that matters an awful lot. Like, this is not the last day before we all go to
downtown Buffalo or something.
Not that it would be a horrible thing because there are different experiences and different can be good. But we're not saying goodbye to this to go to bars and then walk into a dome like you would in Detroit.
Yeah.
Like we're just going to do the same thing a little bit differently, and I'm glad we're not saying goodbye to everything.
No, and you're right. And although the parking will change in some capacity because of what's happening with construction in the new stadium, a lot of the people who are coming today are going to be staying in the same spot they are and they have been for years with their friends and their family tailgating, right? And it's going to be a tough day today, but it's going to be a fun day today. And there's a lot on the table today as far as, where the Bills are going next week. And we're going to be talking about that. But I think today, as much as we would all love for today to be about the Bills having a chance for the division and the 1 seed, I actually like the fact that today can be about, the stadium.
Yep, absolutely.
More than it is about in football. You know what I mean?
We'll mix in some calls along the way. We've been gifted a second beer on the table. We're going to see how many we can get before the end of the show.
Wow.
2 beers on the table.
Is this, I did not
That's right.
realize. Is this like some sort of game or something?
We decided this morning. I don't know. Somebody brought one in. And
It's kind of like a tip jar, you know.
Yes,
You know,
okay.
give us a beer. That's fine.
it's like a time capsule that'll end up in my stomach at some point. You know.
That's right. We'll get some calls in here with Sal and get some memories from him as well. Of course, you've been on the sidelines for so many of these games. Tom in Allegheny is up. Tom, good afternoon. You're on Buffalo Bills Game Day.
Good afternoon, guys. Yeah, Jeremy, you mentioned earlier in the week on the morning show about getting a little misty watching the retrospective video the Bills put out, and I'm like, really? And then I watched it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm choking up. and I got a picture of my dad passed away. I mean, he'd have been 100 in February. He passed away when he's 90, but he took me to the last game at the Rock Pile, the first game there, the preseason game against Washington. It's funny, my only 2 memories are the opening kickoff going right back, like 104 yards, and being incredulous that they were charging $3 to park a car. I just don't remember my dad. Like 11 years, what do I know at 11 years old? But then I saw a lot of OJ's games. I was at the Giants game the guy referenced earlier. I turned to my dad going, why is that guy? It was the cable between, I believe, that was holding up the netting behind to block the field goals and kicks from going through. The only time I ever cried there was probably twice, actually, when Dempsey missed a field goal at the end of a horrific game against the Dolphins in 79. And you never heard 80,000 people so quiet leaving that stadium because that was like loss 20, I believe, or loss 19. They probably lost later in the year to Miami, for the decade. And then, I was at 51-3 when everybody's sitting there at halftime going, I think Sal said you were there. The whole second half was a party. It's 41-3 at halftime. I was lucky enough to actually be able to cover the team as a sports writer for a few years and I remember covering the Raiders game. I can't remember if it was 92, 93 when it was like 3 below and 20 below. And I was cold, and I was in the press box, and I was cold because the wind was coming underneath is when the press box was at midfield. Just so many, and I'm just fortunate enough to be able to take my daughter, and I just thought to be able to bookend this. I'm taking my youngest, my 20-year-old, to the game today. I'm heading out in about 20 minutes. And just even thinking about that, and some of it's the past. I can't believe it was 52 years ago, but just been so many unbelievable memories in that place. I know it's people talk about it as a dump. The Rock Pile was a dump. The Rock Pile was a way bigger dump than this place ever was. But I don't know what I think, like Sal said, I'll probably be crying as I'm pulling down Big Tree, remembering, my daughter sitting next to me, and 50 years ago, it was all through the 70s and early 80s with my dad sitting next to me. The most vivid memory I have of being so excited was a game a lot of people don't think about, was 81. The Roland Hooks, really double Hail Marys. They completed 2 long passes with 30 seconds left and no timeouts. Beat the Patriots to go 6-6 to cling to their playoff hopes and won the last 4 to make the playoffs. That's when they beat the Jets on the Bill Simpson interception at the end. And I remember hugging a woman halfway down the road. Half the stadium was gone. People had left. There was like 30,000 people left in the stadium. And that memory is so – I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but that memory is so blazing in my mind. So, guys, I don't get a lot of calls, but thanks for the time. I really appreciate it, and hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks for all the memories. I'm sure a lot of people, share similar memories of the games you're mentioning. Like 51-3. Like 51-3 is a topic. If there's the short list of every generation's kind of touch point, it's 51-3 for the 90s, right? And the drought was a long time. In there, like I'm not making fun of it. The win over the Patriots is that one.
So I was at that game with my college roommates from Rochester who had never been to a Bills game before.
Perfect game?
No. I'm saying in the 2000s.
The Fitzy,
11.
11.
Even though the game doesn't rate like how
right.
But that's the game.
There were people crying in the stands, and my roommates were looking at me and going, "Why? What are they crying for?" I'm like, it's hard to explain.
You don't understand, man. All right,
you don't get it.
Well,
and then of course the perfect game, like the perfect. The perfect game is the one for me, where I've been coming to these games for a long time, and the year before they'd been in the playoffs. They beat the Colts, they beat the Ravens, and that's COVID, so there's only 10,000 people or whatever in the stadium. And I remember as we're trying to decide, like, am I going to enter for tickets? And I actively said, like, I don't want to go when it's half full. I'm glad if you want to go, that's great. I want my first playoff game to be a full Highmark, and that was the perfect game.
Yes.
So, like, to me, that is just like that's the one. That's the one for me.
The perfect game is, I would say, this generation's 51-3. And I would say, as somebody who went to both games at different stages of my life, as a fan, high school senior at 51-3, as a professional on the sidelines for the perfect game, there are a lot of similarities. Of course, the biggest one is you knew for the entire second half you were winning this game. And against the Patriots, it's burying the evil empire once and for all, putting that nail in the coffin. They are dead. They are done. This is our division. 51-3 is the number one experience I'll ever know. There's nothing close to me ever in this stadium. And I can't describe what it was like just by telling people that it was 41-3. The nation was about to go to war. It was the Iraq War. The patriotism inside the stadiums was off the charts. It was breaking news left and right on all the TV stations. And the Bills were up 41-3. And the entire second half, hour and a half, was just people partying and reveling in the fact that we're going to the Super Bowl. And the three things I remember most were three chants. Thank you, Bills. Thank you, Bills. Super Bowl. Super Bowl. And then, astonishingly, because of what people thought of him just a few years earlier, thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah.
And it just reverberated. I still get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's number one for me.
So I got a good one for you guys. When I grew up going to games with my dad, he was very adamant that I was not – we could go to any game. Dolphins game is off limits.
Yeah.
You can't go to a Dolphins
Yes.
game until you're 16 years
Yes.
old. So
Love
my
it.
first Dolphins game, we're walking right up here behind where we're stationed right now. And as we're walking into the stadium, all of a sudden, a giant fish on top of a motor, like a motorhome, explodes with fish guts going all over the
That's
parking
why your
lot.
dad said you
Yeah,
can't
he's
go.
like,
That's
he
right.
goes, you see why I didn't let you go to a Bills Dolphins game until you're
That's
16
right.
years old?
Oh, man. That's right. Today will be the Jets' 50th time inside this stadium.
Yes, it's crazy.
I went back and looked at the history. They played it in Buffalo, Bills at the home team, 51 times since the stadium was built. But one was in Toronto and one was in
Okay.
Detroit because of
Yes,
the snow.
because of the snow game.
So that equals this time. This is the 50th time the Jets will be here. And actually, as much as I think the Dolphins have the kind of like, oh my God, there's this incredible history, Dolphins, Patriots, there's playoff games, the benchmarks of the Jets have been really astonishing and to think about. The first game ever was here against the Jets.
Regular season, right?
Jim Kelly's first ever game was here against the Jets in 1986.
Joe Namath?
1988, the goalposts come down against the Jets when they win the division here. There you go. See, I mean, like, the Jets actually have this really great representation of Highmark Stadium here, and there are a lot of really good, interesting memories. And, of course, Bledsoe, 0-2.
Oh, yeah.
Chad Morton.
Overtime.
Right? I mean, like,
Yep.
there's been some
Yep.
along the way here.
I'll tell you, the phrase that's going to be shouted the most today is, I was there.
Yes.
You're in the parking lot, someone's going to talk about a game. I was there. I was there at that game. This guy running by, he was at all those games.
all the games.
I was there.
That's
I was
right.
there.
Yeah.
And today, regardless of how it goes, will be a I was there kind of moment for everybody. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. Sal, let's get into how the Bills are going to play this game. Sean McDermott said business as usual, and that's maybe to be interpreted. They have a standard. I always want to borrow some preseason stuff. Whenever they have a preseason game, if they look bad, I know that while we might on the outside say like, whatever, it's preseason, but the head coach of this team has a pretty high standard for how he wants his team to play. And I feel like he's going to have that today, right?
Oh, yeah.
With winning is important, sending the stadium off in the right way is important. How do you think he ultimately walks that line of important to keep our standard, to keep us healthy, to keep the main thing right now? Because next week they have a game. So how do you think McDermott will walk that line?
I think everybody understands. You can't fake it. You can't pretend. Everybody understands they're playing a playoff game next week. Everybody on the roster understands that. So they know that the main thing is making sure they are at full peak performance and ready to rock and roll and healthy going into a playoff game. But they also know they have a game to play today that means a lot to this community. There's one thing that Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, and this regime have done since they've come here. They have really instilled the importance of this team to this community, to everybody in that locker room. Everybody in that locker room understands what today means to this crowd, what it means to this community to be out there today. And they want to give it a proper send-off. And guess what? I'm guessing, let's say, Joe Andreessen's probably going to start at Mike linebacker, for example, right? And Dorian Williams at will. And you're going to get different offensive linemen. This is their opportunity to show and to say they sent this stadium off the right way for the people who care. And I think that's how you do it, Jeremy.
Yeah.
This is your chance and your opportunity to really have a legacy inside this stadium for this community and this fan base for that group that's playing today.
I also think, too, and I mentioned this to Jeremy, it kind of feels like the defensive line rotation isn't necessarily set in stone as we head into the playoffs. I would say Fedarian Mathis has played his way into meaningful snaps as they head into the wild card. Matthew Judon will likely make his Bills debut today. He was elevated off the Bills practice squad.
You know who's playing well lately? TJ Sanders.
TJ Sanders
playing well lately. I think he's starting to figure it out.
Solidifying your position on this defensive line going into the playoffs, that might be the one thing in this game that has real meaning on the field.
No doubt about it. And, of course, the other part, Jeremy, is I'm super fascinated with how do they treat James Cook?
Yeah.
Like, what happens at 1 o'clock with Jonathan Taylor? What if Jonathan Taylor passes James Cook by 50 yards? You keep James in long enough to pass Jonathan Taylor. Then you have Derrick Henry lurking 137 yards currently behind, who plays tonight. You have no control over that. What if Jonathan Taylor doesn't get to James Cook? Do you just sit him entirely and say whatever happens tonight, we need you healthy? Josh Allen has a chance for the 40 touchdowns again, right? And we know Josh is going to start. We know that because his streak is important to him. But how quickly do you get him out? And then back to your preseason point. When they don't play well in the preseason and Sean says, we need to go out there the next game and play well.
They do.
I wonder if he feels that they need to have a little bit of that going into this game.
Yeah. There's also incentives. Guys
Lots
have
of
incentives.
Lots
if
of
you're
incentives.
Dawson Knox, like, hey, I need 7 receiving yards. And, it's one of the things that it's funny because as a fan, you definitely don't have to care about that stuff. It can affect your salary cap a little bit here and there. But for a team, I think it's important, and I think players kind of know and coaches know that even though sometimes contracts get dicey and there's whatever, it can be difficult. Once you get to this stage, coaches are often like, one way I can get my guy is if I get him his catch.
100%.
I saw Chris Long talking about he had a sack in the final preseason game. He's on the Green Light podcast. Final regular season game, he got a sack for a $500,000 bonus, and he showed the highlight. And he sacked the quarterback, and he starts pumping his fist at the sky. And on the broadcast, they're like, and Chris Long's really happy about that. And he's like, yeah, I was happy. I got $500,000 with that one sack. He said, I'm thinking about my kids in college, and in that moment. So that kind of stuff matters too, even though it's not always the kind of thing we talk about. Like these guys, Joey Bosa, I think, is a sack away from a big bonus. So sometimes guys might want to stay in, and that's where it's kind of delicate. You're the coach. Like, maybe I'll give you a quarter. All right? You got a quarter. You got a half. But at some point, I'm going to have to pull the trigger and get you out of there.
Yeah, and those are like sacks you
They're
can't
harder
really
to
control,
control.
right?
It's
I mean,
hard.
the other team has a lot of control over that and what they want to do. Getting James Cook yardage, keep him in the game until he gets it, you have a little more control over.
Yep.
Having Josh Allen in for a series, if you want, try and throw it down the field or have him run it in, you have a little bit more control over. I think the bigger picture with this group, most guys would say, look, they totally get it. If it happens, it happens, but it's more important to be ready to play next week. But to your point, Jeremy, and you're right. One thing I think and one reason why players want to be here, they come back here, they say it's the best version of themselves when they're here, is because of that point, which is they know that the team and the organization understand all of those things, care about those things, and try to maximize those players, what they can be both as a player but financially as well.
Yep. 803-0550. Before we get to calls, all right, the list of players that you would expect to see very little from.
Yeah.
Allen is one. Past that.
Well, we know who's out. We know it's going to be Daquan Jones, Jordan Poyer, and who was the other person declared out? It's off the top of my head right now.
Terrell Bernard.
Terrell Bernard, thank you. So, with Terrell Bernard out and an older Shaq Thompson who came up with a neck injury last week, my expectation is Shaq either does not play at all or I would say Joe Andreessen gets the start at Mike linebacker.
Would agree.
Okay.
I would say Dorian Williams might start at will. Keontae Jenkins is elevated. Those are guys I think probably get out early. Tre'Davious White, hit Christian Benford. How does that work? Putting those guys out there, I'm not really sure. How do you want to play all that? The other one, the real one to watch here, I think today, is the offensive line because there's only 9 possibilities. Somebody's got to play a lot. Is that Osiris Torrance? Somebody's got to play a little bit more than normal. And then one more I'll give you. What do they do with Keon Coleman today? Is Keon Coleman play and he's active and they say, here's your chance, go show us what you can do? If Keon Coleman is inactive today, that speaks so many volumes.
Yes. That might be the biggest storyline that none of us have really talked about this week. There is
Kind of has
no reason for him to not be on the field
active
today. It would be it would be a huge statement by the organization.
No doubt about it. And then, of course, you have Dalton Kincaid, who's been dealing with the knee. I doubt he would play at all. Why would he play in this type of situation? You're going to need him ready for next week. And then Deion Walker was listed as questionable with the illness as of yesterday. So maybe back to that D-line rotation, give guys more time.
All right. Very good. Sal, enjoy it. Stay warm. One final ride at Highmark Stadium.
Yeah. You got it, man. Enjoy it, everybody.
All right.